All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to this incredible day that we have for you. This is Chantal, and this is day number 2 to the 5-day challenge, Love Yourself and Love Life, a 5-day retreat for you who have been diagnosed with breast cancer to find healing and find peace, reconnect with your body, and know that you can trust your body again and trust your heart to guide you through the healing process, and ultimately trust your higher self and really engage yourself in living the life that you are meant to live. So along with me today is my friend Kathy, and she is a relationship coach. And that's totally perfect for today because today it's Valentine's Day and it's the celebration of the heart. So I really welcome you to be in your heart as you listen to me today. Breast cancer, I believe, is ultimately a healing of the heart. And I am adamant that if you know how to heal your heart, you will be here and be able to heal. So welcome again to this day number 2 on this Yes to My Life Beyond Breast Cancer. Happy Valentine's Day, and let's get started. So, what are we talking about here today? We talked about the heart yesterday as the center and the seat of the soul. I'm going to recap a little bit of what we did today and welcome Mary Ellen and anyone else who can be on a Facebook page live. There's 2 places to be today. One is this Zoom link, and is also you can be live, and Kathy is manding as a grateful friend, a really great friend, both places. So if you have questions, you can post them in the comment box below, or you can also post them on Facebook. So I'm going to recap what we talked about yesterday. We talked about stress, the stress response, and how it affects overall your immune system. We talked about physical stress. We talked about toxic stress, and toxic stress is the stress that releases hormones that are basically stuck in your body. And we talked about how to release those hormones through breath, movement, and mindfulness. And why would we want to do this is because your body wants to heal. Your body wants to heal. I'm repeating this again. Your body actually knows how to heal. If you can get your mind out of the way, because often that's where there's a lot of challenges, and that's what we're going to talk about today. If you tune in into your heart, your body knows how to heal. So we did a meditation on the heart yesterday, and feel free to go back to yesterday's posting on the Facebook group and listen to the meditation. And today we're going to do a little bit of that again. So we're going to basically talk about the 4 levels of healing that happens through your body, the messages that you receive through your physical body. Physical sensations is number 1. Your physicality, your body is like a conduit. It receives messages at all times. Now, as you listen to me, you can just tune in. What you're feeling, sensing, is what your body's telling you about how this experience is. And then we also have emotions. They live in our body. Emotions live in our body. They live in our organs. And we have thoughts. And those thoughts affect our emotions, which in turn affects our physicality, our reactions, our body. We always go back to that. And why? Because that's where we can affect healing and transform what's happening in our body. It's a calling for help. Whatever the illness is, whatever the disease is, this ease means a lack of ease. So we want to facilitate ease. We want to facilitate flow. And ultimately, we have higher guidance. That's the spiritual aspect of our being. We know, there's a part of you that knows at all times what we are here for and how to go through this journey and find our way. So that's what we're talking about today. Again, welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. And here we go. So I have 4 questions for you. And the first question is, what is your relationship to your body? How do you relate to your body? Do you love your body? Do you not love it? Do you not trust it? Which maybe at this point makes sense, because if you go through an illness like breast cancer and you have had to have surgery and or treatments, you may not trust what's going on in there. And historically, women have been trained and we have been programmed to not like ourselves. Do you ever look at yourself and just say, hey, I love everything about me? I know very few women who actually do that. We always have some sort of criticism. And so like we put the self-critical lenses on, and then that message goes directly into our body. The way we treat ourselves is also how our body responds. If we push hard, we're stressing, we don't have time to balance. It's all happening in the body. So that's how you treat yourself. So how do you relate to your body? Now, as you hear the answer to this, don't judge yourself. It's not about judgment. It's not about criticism. It's about noticing. Because today, later on, we're going to talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to be aware without judgment. And what is your relationship to emotions? That's my second question. We don't live in a society that actually encourages us to be emotional. And what I mean by this is to feel emotions, to have it be okay to cry and to be angry, especially for women. And sometimes we're encouraged to be happy, but not too happy. Loving, oh my gosh, today's Valentine's Day. And, we associate love with romanticism, but not necessarily with like deep centered, heart-centered love. We feel uncomfortable. I mean, that's what for a lot of us, emotions are stuck somewhere and they don't flow. So how do you relate to your emotions? Now, thinking is the next level. Our thoughts, we live in a society, again, that really prioritize thinking, being rational, having your mind be over matter. Well, it's all good unless it's completely out of balance, unless your mind takes precedent over your emotions and your physical sensations. If you override your body sensations and override your emotions, your thoughts are out of control. It's not in balance. We're looking for balance between these 4 aspects. And the last one is the spirituality. So my question to you is, how do you relate to spirit, your higher self? And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means. So I'm just wondering, either whoever wants to speak, if you have something that you want to say. How do you relate to your physical body, emotions, your mind, the relationship you have with your mind, and also to your connection to spirit? If you want to talk, we can look and unmute you. Is there something you want to say, Kathy? I know I always put you on the spot.
No, I'm all good. I'm all ears. This is really good stuff. I think it's just so important, isn't it, that we allow ourselves just to accept body, emotion, spirit, and not stifle ourselves.
Yes, and in fact, you use a very important word, Kathy. Thank you. The word acceptance. It is important to be in acceptance with what we actually experience, right? So that's what we're going to go through today. So the truth is, if you have been diagnosed with breast cancer, and maybe more than once like I have, you may not trust your body. You may feel or may have felt betrayed by your body. And you may also feel angry, and you may also feel uncomfortable. It's not a good place to live in. And maybe you're still in that reality, maybe you're not. And your emotions may feel out of control. Often when we have a series of treatments, they do affect our hormones, which in turn affect our emotions. And then we don't know. For the first year after I had breast cancer, I literally cried every single day for an hour. I used to make joke out of it. I would say, oh, here we go. I'm opening the floodgates for an hour. And I did not know back then that the heart center, which is one of the center in the 7 chakra centers, is the center for grief. And I didn't realize how much grief I had held into my heart center. And I just let myself cry. And eventually it stopped. But it was a deep learning experience for me. And then if you have been through breast cancer recovery or breast cancer treatment, fear may have elevated your anxiety and your mind is out of control. So you may feel like your mind is racing or it's frozen. Sometimes body chemistry changes and it makes your mind unclear, it makes you foggy, and it makes you frozen. And you may also have felt abandoned by spirit. You may feel like you're disconnected. There's nothing bigger holding you. You're not part of the whole. You're cut off. And I'm using these words because there are many words that we can actually use. But ultimately, it's really being connected to all there is, universal life force. And I relate to it as often when I used to teach yoga, I taught yoga for a long time, more than 10 years. And I used to say to people, this planet is staying in its orbit without you having to think about it. You and I have nothing to do with the balance of the planet and the balance of the universe. So there has to be a greater intelligence beyond all this that holds us together. So we have access to that through our connection through our heart. So truth is, you may have felt disconnected. You may feel betrayed by your body, emotionally out of control. Your mind may be racing through because of anxiety or frozen or numb, foggy. And you may also feel that spirit has left you. And today I'm here to tell you that we can reconnect all these pieces together. So how do we relate to our body? How do we relate to our physical reality? And I have here a little picture of a baby with a mom. And I say mom, it could be a caregiver. It's important to know what the origin of our childhood was. And it's not in the name of blaming, and it's not in the name of pointing out fingers. It's in the name of understanding how we were related to. Because the way we were related to physically, emotionally, mentally, and also spiritually is how we relate to ourselves. So we're really basic beings when we're born. We have basic needs, right? We are hungry, we need food, thirsty, we need to drink. We're cold, we need warmth. We're hot, we need to cool down. Emotional reassurance. Often when we cry, if our cry is being responded to, it creates a sense of safety. And it also tells us that there's someone out there able to take care of those needs. And if someone is responding to our facial expressions, right, that's a challenge now when I'm speaking to a camera and I don't see, unless somebody's on the screen with me, that what I'm saying has an impact. It eventually makes me feel like I am talking to the wind. And that is what's happening when the little baby is not getting a response. And it's not anybody's fault. It's more like sometimes, the caregivers can be distracted. They're busy, they're overwhelmed, they don't respond. And so the baby internalizes what I have to say and who I am doesn't matter. And that's how we start responding to our own needs, our own emotional expression. It's like, well, I have this, but it doesn't matter. I feel this, but it doesn't matter. Now, mentally is how we basically learn to frame life. We have caregivers that are explaining things to us in simple words at first, and eventually it gets more complex. And we put concepts together, but we have people teaching us, right? So self-care and the way we relate to ourselves is how we are being taught. So if we're surrounded, and like I said, we live in a society that really denies body. We idealize looking good. We idealize for women being thin. We idealize all kinds of other things, not having any wrinkles and not having any imperfections. And at the same time, we don't really value connecting to the physicality of who we are. So mentally, we have taken some concepts in our mind belief systems about how we should be. And the word should is something that I would underline, because as we go through breast cancer, our body's going through a lot of changes. And it may not feel good and it may not look good. And we have to go through that filter. How do we let go of what is going on so that we actually accept and be comfortable and love our body for the way it is and for whatever happened, because it's happening, right? And spiritually, the way we are actually connected to the universe or the universal life force is how our parents also had that disconnection or connection. We learn through modeling. We grow up in an environment where people are surrounding us and people say things, don't say things, do things, don't do things, right? So for a while, I grew up with an environment where there's a lot of going to church happening. So I went to church, you know, what else was I going to do? I was a child. I just followed along until I eventually found my own way. And I'm not claiming for anyone to have a certain way of relating to spirit. I'm just saying that we learn through modeling. So these 4 levels is what we have learned as babies. We have in our body system, in our memory, all these messages. And I'm saying this because the way you relate to yourself today is what you sometimes don't feel like you have a choice. And I'm inviting you, this is what we're going to go into now. How do we change that? And I'm not saying change because it's wrong. I'm pretty sure that a lot of what you're doing right now is actually right for you. It's just giving you more tools in your tool bag to associate and to facilitate healing. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is right there. The bottom one is physiological. How do we attend to our physiological needs? And I'm saying this because your body's wisdom is always telling you what you need. And sometimes we have to start simple, right? So physical sensations, homeostasis happens through you meeting your physical needs. It's that basic. Get up in the morning, you know you're hungry or you're not. And you need a hug or you don't. That's an emotional need. Or you have, you know, there's too much light or not enough light. I mean, these are like the things like hunger, thirst, noises, light, sensory awareness, kinesthetic, that is movement. These are the messages you receive through your body. Like, for example, I'm a very kinesthetic person, meaning I need to move a lot. That helps me regain balance emotionally and mentally. So as I'm speaking to you today, I'm sitting. And for me to sit like this for a while is eventually challenging. I get all balled up. So that's the message I get from my body. I start feeling tight, and I know that I need to start moving. That's how I regain balance. What is it for you? What does your body tells you? What does it tell you? Are you able to track? And I'm not saying minute by minute, but really, when you start feeling tense, you need to relax. If it's too noisy, you need more quiet. If you're hungry, you need to eat. If you're thirsty, you need to drink. It's that basic stuff, right? Your body says, please give me something to regain balance. That's how we start listening and tuning in and meeting our needs. Tired, I forgot that one. Need to rest, especially when we go through something like a healing crisis. And breast cancer is definitely a deep healing crisis. We need to rest. Rest is where healing happens. And rest doesn't necessarily mean sleeping. Rest sometimes means changing pace. Rest means shifting activities. Like for me, going outside and walking slowly is restful. I crave fresh air and light and sunlight. So I'm just wondering at this point, I'm going to pause in terms of asking, what sort of physical messages do you get that you are aware of, able to respond to, and where is it challenging? I'm just curious. Just going to open it up without asking anyone in particular. Is anyone wanting to say something? No? Maybe? Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
I have to pay attention really vigilantly with my body right now because I go through times that I am not hungry, but I know I need to have nourishment.
Yes.
And also, like yesterday, I was just going through a extreme fatigue day. So I just couldn't pay attention to the computer in a full way. So I said, oh gosh. But because I'm on a chemo pill for 21 days, so I was in the end, you know, I was sort of feel like I was detoxing some of that. But yeah, I think it's really important to listen to your body. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for saying this, Mary Ellen. I appreciate that very much. And yes, it's good. I'm glad you're listening when you're tired to rest. And yes, not every day is the same. And yeah, I went along with you yesterday. I was exhausted. I had to take a long break in the afternoon. All right. So let's talk about actually what I wanted to have us do for a minute here is a body scan. And before we move on to emotional needs, and a body scan is a very simple way to find balance. It's sometimes when you feel disconnected, a way to reconnect. So I'm just going to guide us in a very short body scan as a tool for you to use anytime, anywhere, any day. And what I mean by this is like I'm here now speaking to you and I'm sitting and I have my eyes open and I'm talking and I still can scan my body. So you don't necessarily have to close your eyes. But if you want to for a moment there, just close your eyes and I'm going to keep my eyes open because I want to look at you. And I'm actually going to sit up straight. So see if you can, if you're seated, sit up straight and ground your feet the same way we did yesterday when we were doing our meditation. Feel your feet on the ground and feel your sits bones if you're seated on the seat, or feel your entire body laying down. Feel the weight. So deepen your breath like we did yesterday. 4 counts on the inhale. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And again, take a deep breath in. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And continue doing this as I talk. Now feel the weight. You probably feel even more, a little more weight as you took a couple deep breaths here. And imagine that you have a scanner, one of those ones that they scan you with at the airport or anywhere you go at this day and age. So just scan, imagine you start at the top of your head and you're going in the front of your face and in the back of your head. Notice what you're sensing. Sensations can be tension, it can be warmth, it can be anything. The inside of your head too, just not the front and the back, but also the inside of your brain. And then go down into your throat. So maybe as you go through this, you have to stretch a little bit. Stretch your neck. Imagine your ears can smile. You pull your head up a little bit. Open your throat, relax your jaw, and again, notice. And then go down into your chest and into your shoulders. A lot of tension lives there. And I don't mean to put words into your mind, but just feel what it feels like in there. Chest, arms. Scan around your chest. Notice front and back and inside your chest. What words come to you? And then go down into your solar plexus, into your belly, sits bones. Again, you're taking note. Noticing means taking note. Sensations, tense, relax, warm, cold, busy, numb, all the way down to your feet. And just see if there's one, so scan again. I'm going to close my eyes just for a second. Just imagine you can scan again. Just see if there's one word, one part of your body that's calling forward, that is calling for attention. And notice again what this part of your body is calling for, what the word is. And ask that same part of your body to give you a message about what it needs. So what does it need? Like I'm noticing, for instance, my jaw is a little tight because I'm talking a lot. So I'm going to put my fingers there and I'm just going to relax it. So it's that simple. I feel tension and I need to release. And so that's what a body scan is. It's literally just going around and just noticing and hearing and making small changes. So what do you notice? Either one of you, and there may be more people on Facebook, but I'm not seeing the messages. Do you see anything there, Kathy?
Yeah, I think
What do
it's
you
up.
notice?
Yeah.
No?
I'm noticing lower back, just really noticing the need for a stretch.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So you noticed tension and you felt the need to stretch. That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have some stuckness in my neck,
Yes.
and I just have heaviness in my heart.
Yes.
I could go on, but
Say that again?
I said I could go on. There's a few other spots. But
Yeah.
that's what I mentioned. That's what I would feel
Yes.
the most.
So it's for you to, I'm not going to necessarily, you know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but just like, if you can afterwards, spend some time and just ask, what's the heaviness on your heart needing? And every other fun sensations that you have, what does it need? Because that's really the message. It needs something. And that's how we respond to our need. Heaviness in the heart. Is there a word that comes to you? I'm just curious. I know I said I wasn't going to put you on the spot.
I just think there's some sadness that I need to release.
Yes.
It's really hard for me to do that. I don't know where I learned to put the wall up.
Yes.
You know, not allowed.
Yes.
Or I'm not sure, but that's what I think I need to get to, a place where I can really feel safe.
Yes.
To feel sad.
Yes. So what you just said is right up, you know, it's right on alignment with the heart center. Grief lives in the heart center. And it needs to be held. And that's why if we go back a couple of slides, we would see, you know, mommy with the baby. So the whole idea of this work is to be able to start mothering ourselves, right? We can't go back, cannot go back, cannot undo the past, it's done. But at this point, if you even just put hands on your heart and just kind of let your heart know, and let the sadness, the heaviness know that you're here. And just see what happens. Sometimes nothing else needs to happen, and sometimes maybe reaching out to another person. And thank you for you being vulnerable and telling us about this. I appreciate that. Yeah. And you can continue doing this. Often I will put hands on my heart when I meditate so that I know that I'm here. Like I tell my heart I'm here. So that's basically body wisdom speaking. And wisdom means it's telling you something and you are using your own awareness to respond to that need. So we already did this. Now we're going to move on to the emotional state, because it is connected. As you saw, body sensations lead to emotions. There's a wide range of emotions. And I have this picture of this woman having all these faces. But I remember one time I was teaching a group of women about emotional health, and one of the participants actually asked me, do you have a list of words that describe emotions? And that question really took me off guard, because I didn't have one. And I went into a search. I did a web search to find, is there a list of emotions? And I found a very long, extensive one. And I thought, I wonder if that's going to help her. because she was trying to put words into what she was feeling. And I thought that could be very overwhelming to have a list of 50 words to name emotions. So I'm going to simplify it for you. There's basically 5 emotions. There is happiness, and along happiness goes everything else. Joy, contentment maybe is part of that. There's a long list of related to happiness emotions that we can list. There's sadness, we just talked about it, grief, loss, those feelings. There is anger, and I talked about it earlier, how anger is such a hard thing for women to experience. We are always looked at like something's wrong if we express anger. And then there is pleasure, and along with that is orgasm. I know I'm saying this on camera, but really it's the ability to sense and feel pleasure. And then there is peace, a feeling of deep, I think contentment would go along that feeling. So basically around on these 5 words, we can expand and have a huge range of emotions. Now, why is it important to be able to name those emotions and talk about this? So on this slide, you can see that emotions, blocked emotions, live in the body. So now I'm going to go back to, they will eventually turn into illness if we don't release them. Energy, emotions really mean energy in motions, emotions, right? So autoimmune diseases, the body turns against itself. It's inflammation and everything else related to that. Heart diseases, emotional issues around the heart. Digestive problems, emotions around self-expression, self-esteem, and it's the 3rd chakra, willpower, universal will, balancing that. Cancer, it's an overall, depending on where it goes, but I really do believe that for breast cancer, as I said before, it lives in the heart center, the chakra of self-love and love, universal love, and balancing that. Arthritis lives in the joints. It has to do with ability to feel supported. So there's an emotional component, and I'm not taking this out of my own mind. If you look at any, you have emotions and physicality here connected to the chakra systems. Basically, the 7 centers of energy relate to a physical part in our body, and that physical part is actually related to an emotion. So that's what I'm talking about. So I'm back to this making connections between emotions and physicality, but think about it. When you're mad, where's the fire, right? It lives in the liver in Chinese medicine, but really, if you're mad, it's in your belly, right? If you're sad, it's in your heart. And often it could be in the mind too. If you have anxiety, it's in your stomach. Butterfly in the stomach exists, right? If you have love and grief, it's in the heart. So everywhere there's an emotion, every time you have an emotion, it lives somewhere. Now, if you cannot let that go, and what I mean by this is a release, the letting it happen. And it doesn't mean overly expressing, and it doesn't mean repressing. There's a balance in between. And I know it's a hard thing to strike for, and I'm not saying strike for that now, because if you even take one step in the direction of knowing what you're feeling, you already are one step ahead. So feel it is the first thing. Feel it. I know if you have an emotions, like you just, talked about feeling grief and having a hard time allowing yourself to feel it, or maybe you feel it, but you can't name it, or maybe you can name it, but then you can't express it. This is basically 3 simple steps. The expression of it is what we learn. That's why we go back to that little infant being held with mommy and getting some feedback. And I say mommy or caregivers, getting some feedback has taught us how to relate to our emotions. We grow up little babies until we're adults. The main programming happens between 0 and 7. At 2 years old is when we define ourselves. That's when we learn boundaries. That's when we say no, and that's where we're mad. Now, if our caregivers had learned the message that it's not okay to be mad, they will repress your anger. They will tell you it's not okay. And then when we're infants, we need to survive. And our survival depends on our caregivers. So we're not going to go against what they're saying. We're going to internalize the message because we're smart little beings. And we say, in order to please mom or dad or whoever is around me, I have to not do that. So we kind of get that message ingrained in our body. And later on, we sort of forgot where it came from. And we also, and it's not about blaming again, because our caregivers could not give us what they did not have, right? Because some of you I know are mothers, and I want to take you off the hook. We always do our best with what we have. And yet, at this point in our life, we're grown-ups, we're adults, and we're responsible. Responsible means ability to respond. We're able to respond differently than what we were trained to do, right? So emotions, if they're repressed, they compress, right? Think about compression. Think about how, if you don't breathe, and breath is the first thing to help yourself feel and let things move. If you don't breathe, you suppress and you compress. Not good. Because that energy is stuck in your tissues. So when we say your issues live in your tissues, it is real. Now, when it comes down to something like cancer, what is a tumor? There's maybe more than one. The energy is not moving. It's dense energy. Now, light and darkness are at play here. And I do believe that the energy of love holds more light than the energy of hate. In fact, there's a book called The Hidden Messages in Water. And I highly recommend reading it because the experimenter put different jars of water with only one word stuck in the jar and let it sit there. And then had this really powerful, gosh, it's escaping to me, a very powerful way of looking at the water molecules and analyze them, and to realize that the love molecules were probably, that was the best one, harmoniously organized. And what's the opposite of love? It's hate. And not only did the molecules be all fragmented and chaotic, but they started growing black fungus. Now, just the word. Now think about this. A word stuck on a jar of water that sits there. Words have power, right? That turns into emotions. And that emotion turns into energy, and that energy lives in the body. And it's that simple. So now what do we do with this? Is just using that information to know that it's important for you to connect with the emotional world that lives inside your body. And that's what I'm talking about today. Bringing love, bringing compassion, bringing kindness to what you're going through is healing. And that's what I'm going for. And I'm hoping that's what I'm inviting you to do. Now, here we are, mental balance. I just talked about it. Words have power. And we're just going to shift. But before we shift there, I'm just curious if anyone has anything to say about what we just talked about. Comments, questions? Emotional world, it's messy. It's not clear. It's confusing. Anyone has, feel free to pipe in if you want to say something. You just have to unmute yourself. Okay, so we are staying quiet on this one. Unless you want to say something, Mary Ellen.
It's all good stuff. It's all going in. It's great.
Okay. Can you relate? Especially you, relationship coach, my dear friend Kathy, you know how couples are sometimes getting stuck into the emotional world, right? That's where things get like, ugh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, not sharing emotions is one thing. Sharing emotions unskillfully is another thing.
Right.
Just that ability to reach out to each other with empathy and just check in. That you were talking about kind of checking in with yourself and your emotions. And when you're in a relationship, it's about checking in with each other. Are you feeling frustrated, angry? You know, I get that. I would be feeling just the same way. And let's work it out. Let's find a way to work this out. So yeah, and it's the same with us individually too, you know, checking in with your own emotions and finding a way to to resolve those emotions, not necessarily what you were saying about that balance was interesting, you know, not necessarily over expressing, but also not stifling them.
Right.
So,
Right. And, you know, being in a relationship really starts with being in a relationship with ourselves. It's hard to be in a relationship with another person when we don't know where we stand, what's going on in this world called the inner world, right? So then we're like, we join in with somebody else's world, and all of a sudden it's very confusing because we have two different realities kind of meeting together. So in this context, we really are trying to establish a relationship with ourselves and also with the world around us. So thank you for saying that. Yeah. Did you want to say something, Mary Ellen?
No, not yet. I'm okay.
Okay. So we talked about emotions, and then we talked about the power of the words associated with the emotions, right? So that's why the Hidden Messages in Water is that book that I'm talking about. And then that proves that what you think has an impact on what you feel. That's so silly, right? Not really. We are a whole being, 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So intentions, so words have power. Conversations that we hold with ourselves is very important. Now I have another slide coming that says we have between 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. And 90% of those thoughts are repetitive. Same old story. We just run around like a gerbil on the wheel, just repeating the same thing. A lot of it is unconscious. A lot of it stems from that 0 to 7 years old in our time frame. And we don't even know why we're thinking that. And that relates to beliefs. So beliefs is those thoughts that were ingrained into your mind and that have unconscious power, I would say, because sometimes, most of the time, our beliefs are unconscious. And when it comes down to healing, the power of possibilities is really important. If you have grown up in an environment like I did, where everyone was sick, and I'm not kidding you, physically, that's how my family processed emotions, always, physicalities. And then powerlessness. We are under, like, I'm sick, I can't do anything, or I am the victim of that condition, right? Having to take whatever that is that they were taking. And now we're going back in the days where quantum physics didn't, really exist. Quantum healing wasn't spoken about. It's like that reality that energy affects thoughts, and thoughts have energies that then affects emotions, that then affects the body. So the power of possibilities is what your mind has to hold in terms of healing. The story you tell yourself matters a lot. If you repeat to yourself that you're not going to heal, guess what? It ain't going to happen. Now, do I have a magic wand, crystal ball? Can I tell you that it's going to be 100%? I can't. I can't even say this for myself. Everything is sort of a guessing game, but I'm going for what works. And I know that resiliency, and now I'm talking about the book that I referred to yesterday, Buddha's Brain, from Rick Hansen, Hansen. A lot of research in neuropsychology was done by this man and other people, researcher. This is a new field, the field of neuropsychology. It's how we rewire our brain. Unfortunately, and I don't know if it's unfortunate, but that's really what we inherited from the old days. Like yesterday, I was talking about the fight, flight, freeze response stems from the prehistorical age. Our brain will stick bad experiences like Velcro and good experiences like Teflon. Now, yes, a bad experience is like stuck. It's like hardwired. And then it takes 5 good experiences to overcome 1 bad one. 5. You have to work hard. So, yes, it's possible to rewire your brain, and you have to know what is going on in your brain. You have to notice those thoughts that are floating around that are not you, 50 to 70,000, 90%, the same old story. You have to pay attention. And how do you know? So now we're back, we go back again down. How do you know? A thought that doesn't feel good is an emotion that then has a reaction in your body. Always, it's that simple. So when you start feeling crummy, and I say crummy as a general word, it could be depressed, it could be lethargic, it could be tired, it could be anything. Check what's going on in your mind. Sometimes it's a physical reality, you're just tired. But sometimes you have a story associated with it. And the tricky part when you have an illness, a life-threatening illness, like cancer, it's easy to go into what I call meaning-making story, right? You're tired. Like yesterday, I was really tired after doing this first day. And then I start going into, well, is this normal? And is this going to continue? And then is it a sign of something else? And there goes my mind. None of it is related to this moment. And I finally said to myself, hey, Chantal, you're tired. Rest. And today I got up and it was a totally different day. Things change. And that's how you rewire your brain. You have to stop. It's like the cog and the wheel. Put a stick, stop the thinking, and really choose. Make a choice. What do you want to think? Now, 5 good experiences means you have to make a choice on how you're going to think and feel. If you don't feel good, you want to find a way to feel better. It's that simple. I can make it way more complicated, but the reality is that's what you need to do. And as you feel better, then there's something that starts shifting. Your mind-body chemistry shifts, and your mind, what you're thinking shifts. And then here we go, healing happens. So it is really important to mindfulness. And I know I have this, we are here. Let's see if I'm going to move us a little bit. The quality or state of being conscious or aware of something, that's mindfulness. So now we're talking the word mind. Being mindful really means being fully present. Bring your mind to what's happening in your mind. And that's basically what witness consciousness means, which is where we're going next into self-awareness, self-consciousness, higher being or inner being, whatever we want to call it, the ability, that place inside of us that notices everything that happens. Now, before that, okay, so I'm going to go a little faster here. So words have power, I've already said that. So what I wanted to show here, what I wanted to bring into the mix is every day, I have a whiteboard on my wall where I write words, the word of the day. And this is a word that I look at all day because currently I'm working in my home office. And that word is a reminder. I look at the board every day and I see that word. Now, it could be something you put on a sticky note that you bring in the car. It could be something you write on your hand. I don't know. But something that, a word that you want to bring to your consciousness all day. And you need to remind yourself of that word. I mean, most often when I do my meditation in the morning and then after that, I decide, I focus and I choose the word that I want to carry on for the day. Often that word is basically gone after 10 minutes. And then that's why I write it down, right? I see you nodding your head. It's like, that if you just say, I want to be peaceful today, and 10 minutes later, you lose your patience on something because life happens. And you're like, what happened to that peace word? So it's kind of like you have to remind yourself. You have to retrain your brain sometimes of putting markers and reminders around the house. So, all right, let's move on. So I want to tell you a story. This is Gabby's story before we move on to the spiritual reality and then wrap it up. We have 10 more minutes to go. Gabby came to me. She was really exhausted, like beyond exhausted. And she knew she was working too much. She was actually working 6 days a week. And when I say 50 hours, I think it was more like 60 and 70 hours a week. She was married and 2 children. And her body started breaking down, like all of us. After a while, there's only so much you can sustain. If you stop treating your body like a slave and you start tuning in, you will feel tired. If you override that feeling tired and you don't find ways to balance, the breakdowns get bigger and bigger and bigger. So she came with a very simple request. She was exhausted, adrenal exhaustion. So there's a cascade of event that happens. You start having a small imbalance that you don't pay attention to, and then it goes to another one, and it gets bigger. So we don't end up with something like we have without having had the signals, right? I had those signals like 10 years ago for me. It's kind of like happen. I didn't pay attention too much. I did, but I didn't until it got bigger. Now I pay attention. But Gabby was at that place where she was adrenal exhaustion, still could not stop working, and wanted to have a simple goal, exercise. And she couldn't make it happen. When I say she could not, and that's the important word, could not, it's almost like there was a part of her that lived in her brain that basically pushed her to work. So all of us have that. If you have heard the word internal family system, you have all these parts that play inside of you. And so she had that part of her, I call it the inner critic, that kept saying, you have to push, you have to work, you have to work, you have to work. So my work with her was really about, first of all, look at the structure of her life. Okay, 70 hours, a little too much. 60, 50, too much. You have 2 children, you have to care for them. Married, you want to have quality of life with your husband. They were on the brink of divorce. And they went to therapy together. They made the time. She made the time for herself, came to see me, made time to get massage, and slowed down a little bit more. Still not able to exercise though. She was able to start implementing these small changes and started noticing the quality of her life improving, but also her sleep got better. And anxiety calmed down. And the less anxious she was, the clearer her mind was, and the more she was able to focus on priorities. And again, we're back to boundaries. We talked about that yesterday. Say yes to the right thing, say no to what wasn't helping her. It sounds simple, but that took 6 months for her to come to that place where she was able to slow down, work less, have more quality of life. And adrenal exhaustion is a long haul. It takes a while. It can take up to 2 years to come back from adrenal exhaustion. Unfortunately, we live in a society that doesn't promote rest and promotes hyper-caffeinated lifestyle and multitasking and pushing hard. And you have heard of the word burnout. I mean, a lot of people that are celebrities like Huffington, she collapsed one day in her office, adrenal exhaustion, didn't know what was going on. So we sort of think we're superhuman and we're not. And that's what happens. Like if we don't listen to that, then it degenerates into a bigger disease. So I'm here to say that it's important to pay attention, and it's feasible and possible to stop. She was able to slow down and prioritize and simplify. She didn't do it alone, and none of us can. I myself have had tons of help my entire life. I've had coaches, I've had therapists, name it, groups of people. And I'm saying this because it's important to get some support in the healing process. Otherwise, the mind will revert back to what it knows. The thing that you've learned between 0 and 7 has more power than you have maybe now at 40, 50, and even later on 60. So it's important to have that person that holds you accountable. And I don't say accountable to that person, accountable to you, accountable to your own intention to heal. So putting a plug in, there's a calendar. I think Kathy will put the link it was there yesterday, but just a link to have a 30-minute session. If you want to talk about this with me, my calendar is open for the next few days. But I just want to say this, don't do this alone, me or someone else. Get yourself into a framework of asking for help. So back to consciousness, and that's what asking for help is like rewiring your brain and asking for help to not lose track of what your intention is. But at the end of the day, your higher self is your inner guide. We all have messages all day, every day of what is balance and what is out of balance. And that comes from our consciousness. It's important to make time to connect to that consciousness. Because if you look over here, I have the question that says, who are you? Right? Does the you, that is what we call the small ego, the thinking and the feeling and all that, it's like we're really wrapped up. Like this body of ours has a consciousness that is an individual consciousness. There's only one of me, there's only one of you, only one of us. And yet there's something that holds us collectively, a bigger, wider consciousness. And like I said earlier, the earth doesn't spin on its orbit because you get up in the morning and tell it to do that. It has its own intelligence. The universe is held by a bigger consciousness. How do you tap into that consciousness matters a lot. Because your mind can convince you that you're by yourself, alone, isolated, and you're basically going to have to pull yourself by the bootstraps and make it happen. And it's not the truth. We did a meditation on the heart yesterday, and I was hoping to redo it today, but we're not going to do halftime for now. But the higher consciousness meditation is just that moment where you close your eyes and go back inside of you, and you can do a body scan. First, notice what you're sensing and feeling, emotions. Notice your thoughts, and keep focusing on your breath. And eventually you will notice that there's a part of you that is noticing all of that. And that part of you is higher consciousness. We need to tap into that source of power to heal. There is light in the universe, and I say universe. Now I'm talking about all these words: nature, God, Buddha, Allah, universe, universal life force, spirit, higher consciousness. These are all the words that I'm using. Often when I taught yoga, I would talk about nature because some people in my class would not want to hear about God, which I can understand because it's a loaded word. Whatever works for you, use that word. But really, it's not the word that matters so much, even though words do have power. It's how you relate to it, how you come out of your own self, little self, really tight, and you let yourself expand and open and receive from that field of possibility. When I talk about the power of possibility for healing, that's what I'm talking about. The energy that sustains this planet in balance is there to help you regain balance in yourself. And inside of you, there's this guidance. It will tell you what you need, body sensations, balance your emotions, focus your mind in the place that is healing, and also where you need to go. The treatments you need to take or you need to follow, or the food you need to eat, or the people you need to connect to. That is all higher guidance. It's you, it's an intuition. It's not like big message coming in and knocking you on the head that says, hey, listen, God is speaking. It's not that. It's really one step of it at a time. It's like a sensation. It's an intuition. And that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. How to tap into your intuitions, how to let your soul be your pilot. We all have access to intuition, all of us. It's not that we have to call a psychic to say, hey, tell me about my future, even though sometimes it's fun to do. I've done it. To have somebody tell me so I don't have to think about it. But really, we all have access to that intuition. So how do you connect through your higher self? Some people pray, whatever prayer means to you. Gratitude is a good way to start. Being grateful opens your heart. Meditation, if you know how to do it. If you don't, there's a ton of resources on the web, YouTube, tons of people offering you free meditations. Place of worship. If that speaks to you, gather around other people. It can be online right now through this pandemic. A lot of people have opened up their doors to have and hold services online. Mother Nature could be a place where you reconnect to yourself. It's one of mine. It's one of my favorite, actually. So anywhere where you feel like you can let go of that mind and come back to a deeper reality, here, and when I say here guidance, it's not like you're, what you hear is it's a simple awareness that says, go and do this, or call this person, or take this supplement, or do this relaxation. It's that simple awareness that guides you to the next step. it's important to foster that relationship to your higher self. It's like, you know, if you have a best friend and you call them your best friend, but you never talk to them and you never, it's like a relationship. I'm back to Kathy again, right? When you're in love, if you don't nurture that relationship, you take it for granted. It's not happening. After a while, it breaks down. So it's the same thing with the higher self. We need to have that relationship with the higher self. And I say higher self as in it's not above you. It lives inside of you, but it's a deeper place of wisdom. You cannot knock on the door and ask for help. Well, you can actually, because it's always there. But I'm just thinking, like, let's say you never talk to your neighbor, never say hi, and all of a sudden you need something and you knock on their door. They're going to look at you like, who are you? So it's that relationship. How do you have this relationship? How do you foster it? Okay, so I have said a lot and we're coming up in time. And so we're not going to do this higher self meditation, but I will record it at some point and post it. So I'm back to healing breast cancer. To me is really healing the heart center, and it's really in connection to your higher self. I'm going to pause for a minute and ask for feedback one more time, and then we'll wrap up today and talk about what tomorrow holds for us. So I'm open to receiving comments and questions and or anything you want to share with us. I'm going to take a sip of water. Anything pops up?
Well, I'm just thinking that my journey up to now has been, just going through, how do I say this? Well, it was sort of like I'm really attuned to how much negative energy it can be around me, and then what I try to do is transform it. It doesn't always work, or I foof it away and bring in more positive light. And so I even do some, you know, motions to kind of help, because I really feel that the environment that I need to be in right now and be surrounded by has to be, you know, 80-90% positive if I can get there, you know, like, because I didn't realize I was under so much stress that way for many years. And so I think that impacted how my immune system started working, and how, you know, the whole thing with the stress cycle and all that. So I don't know. I think it's really important to also, if you've been out of touch, to get into that intuitive place where you can speak to spirit or whatever you call it, you know, journey. And I think that was really good that you included that in this healing the heart center, which also going into higher self. I like that.
And you know what you just said about having boundaries matters a lot, because you know, if you don't take care of your space and yourself and your environment, and what I mean by this is not about making other people wrong or any space wrong. It's more like your needs are important, and if you need whatever you need is not, it's not open for discussion, right? When I work with people, I say your needs, nobody's needs is open for discussion. So when you're in a relationship with someone or many people, we may have needs sometimes that seems paradoxical or in opposition, but they never are. If you can attend to your own needs and the other person can attend to their own needs, it's not for you to take care of their needs and vice versa. In reality, you can ask for help, and that is important to reach out and ask. But at the end of the day, if you can take care of your own needs and the other person takes care of their own needs, there's, you know, that's how we hold space for healing to happen. So I really appreciate you saying this. And yes, your higher self is the one that will tell you and guide you and give you the words. Sometimes to tell people, hey, listen, I need my space, or I need quiet, or I need to have more time, or I need whatever that is that you need. You can find the words that will not hurt, that will be inclusive of you and the other person. But at the end of the day, you're the only one that can have that for yourself. If you don't take yourself, and I mean self-health, seriously, no one will. You know, when you're facing an illness like cancer, you don't mess around. That's where I'm at. I don't mess around. There's some things that I'm like, nope, not happening. So thank you for saying that. Is there anything else you want to, any comments, any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just love the way that we simplify. I mean, what you're saying is simplifying that down to your body knows.
Yeah.
Because we can be so confused about our emotions, can't we? We can get up into our heads and, but I should be feeling this and I should be feeling that and I should be able to do this. I should. It's like if you just drop down those few inches and say, actually, what do I feel? What are the sensations? What do I need right now? And our body, that body wisdom, it just keeps things clear, doesn't it? When we lost in confusion. So it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, we can get very complicated up here. Needs are very simple. And that's the thing, simple. That's why I keep it there, because simple words, simple needs. It's really simple. The simpler it is, the easier it is to meet them. Okay, so here we go. Your body as a messenger. This is between today and tomorrow. Keep paying attention. Sensations, feelings, thoughts. And then ask yourself, I said spiritually, engage in a daily practice of connecting to your higher self. And it's not something that is, there's no format to this. You know, I'm not saying to you, you sit on a chair and meditate with your eyes closed, because if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. For the longest time, I couldn't do this myself, like now I'm able to, but my meditation was walking in the woods. I'm lucky to have a lot of woods around my house. And so I would just go outside and then tune in. I would ask a question. I would say to myself, I'm going to go walk, and today I'm going to reflect on whatever that is, and then wait for the answer to come. And then I would journal. That was a big thing for me, journaling, recording my thoughts and following my sensations in terms of what's happening. And then I saw a thread, like I started hearing a deeper wisdom coming through my words as I was writing. And that's how I did it. But, you know, whatever works for you, create a practice. So tomorrow, today's takeaway, we've already talked about this. Thank you very much. And tomorrow, let your soul be your pilot. Let your soul come in, open the floodgates. And what I mean by this is that I really do believe that healing is possible at a higher level. And I really want that for you. And I want that for me too. So, and engaging your higher self in making decisions on a level, it's everywhere. Yeah, we're going to look at life tomorrow, the different parts of your life, and we're going to look at how we want to be able to engage a higher self into looking and making the decisions that are supportive to you and not negating others, right? And then connecting to your intuition. There's different levels of intuition. There's kinesthetic, auditory, visual, the knowing. I'm going to brush on that very slightly. This is a long topic. I did 2 years of training on that respect, so I can't impart 2 years of training in intuition, developing intuition in 5 minutes. But yes, 2 years. Yeah. So yeah, I know. I like the laugh. Thank you. So anyways, that's it for today. I'm so glad. I'm very thankful. Thank you, Kathy, for holding space. Mary Ellen, thank you for being here. Whoever else is on the page, Facebook page, if you listen to this later on today, feel free to make comments and ask questions. But until tomorrow, happy Valentine's Day. May you put your hands on your heart, and may your hands send love back to your heart. And may your heart soften and receive. Let yourself receive. The universal love is there at all times. It never leaves us. Thank you. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.